Wife cheated after 13 years together. All updates. Hello and welcome to everyone. As background information, my wife, 28 female, and I, 28 male, have been married for 13 years and have 2 children. We started dating when we were 16 years old and have been together ever since. We were married 3 years ago. The sort of relationship that others coveted was ours, and everyone expected us to tie the knot while we were still relatively young. Approximately a year and a half to 2 years ago, things started to shift between us and our relationship. Following some family difficulties, she started to become more distant, both emotionally and physically, and to become too protective of her phone, as well as to get more close to a male coworker. The long and the short of it is that I snooped, yes, I realized this is bad, on her phone because I had a sneaking sense that something was up with her due to a variety of factors and uncovered incriminating text showing her affair with this individual. In early September, when I asked her about it, she admitted that it had been going on for a year. He and she were having an affair in our home, and they were sleeping together in the bedroom that would eventually house our future children. She apologized profusely and vowed that it would never happen again, and I told her that, in order for us to continue our relationship, she must not have any contact with the person with whom she had cheated on me. She accepted my terms and pledged to never do it again. 2 months later, they are still in touch on occasion, with her arguing that it is unfair of me to expect her not to communicate with someone she believes to be a close friend. At this point, I'm at a loss on what to do next. I'm attempting to see if I can continue, but I'm scared I'll never be able to put my confidence in her once again. Her choice to maintain communication with him, in my opinion, suggests that she places their connection above her and my relationship. I'm just torn between what my instincts are telling me and what my logic is telling me. She also advised me not to tell any of our friends about what was going on, so I don't have anybody to turn to for advice. Sorry for the rant, but this is the first time I've put it all down on paper, and I honestly don't know how to proceed or cope with this situation anymore. At it, I wasn't anticipating such a strong response. With the exception of a few of you who appear to believe that harsh responses are okay when someone's whole life is crumbling around them, this was useful. I know what I need to do. All I need to do is pull off the Band-Aid and get started. I'm going to contact the lawyer I chatted with a few weeks ago tomorrow and see how he advises me to handle the problem. Update 1. Hello and welcome to everyone. Because all of your suggestions were so valuable, I felt it was time to bring this site up to date. Almost a month after posting on this site and reading all of your advice, I called my lawyer and notified my parents, a few close friends, and my wife that I wanted a divorce. She was supportive, but I was not. As she sobbed and begged, she promised to make things right and to refrain from contacting with the AP in the future. We spent the whole weekend with her, making promises and saying and doing all that was expected of us. Despite the fact that I didn't believe her totally, I was willing to give her one more chance to save what I felt we had. Things were okay. We had been coexisting for about a month, but she was paying more attention to me and was less engrossed in her phone's notifications. After that, 2 weekends ago, she handed me her phone to show me something, and as I carefully went up on her open apps, there she was on Instagram, speaking with her Associated Press reporter. After I freaked out, the woman informed me that he had just texted her and that she was unable to respond. They were talking about what they were going to do the next night as I was reading their conversation. Once again, I was taken advantage of, lied to, and duped. She said that she would ultimately ban him, but that she wanted to say goodbye since he was a pal in the meanwhile. I told her it was inexcusable and that she needed to stop all connection with him and block him immediately, which she agreed to do right away and pledged to do. I inquired of her 2 days later as to whether she had blocked him, and she said that she had not. The long and short of it is that I notified her right immediately that we were divorcing and that we could either go through mediation if she agreed with my wishes, or I could hire a lawyer and obtain what I wanted regardless of whether she agreed. She agreed to mediation, and we will begin the process as soon as possible. It took me a lot longer than it should have, but I've now gained enough self-respect to put a stop to this and go out and live the life of happiness that I so richly deserve. She continues to attempt to make me feel guilty about it all, blaming me to some extent and telling me what a terrible situation I am putting her in, but I remind her that it was her choices, not mine, that brought about this, and that she must deal with the consequences of her actions, which she does not. I've been notifying more of my friends about what happened, in addition to alerting the rest of my family about what happened. This is not how I had envisioned my life would turn out, but I see it as a blessing in disguise, and I am certain that I will meet someone who will really make me happy in the end. Update 2. Hello, and welcome to everyone. Despite the fact that it has been quite some time since my previous remark, I wanted to provide one last update on my experience since you have all been so encouraging during this process. I am a 29-year-old male. Consequently, after alerting my ex-girlfriend, a 29-year-old female, that we were separating, the gaslighting began in earnest, making me feel responsible for our situation, telling me that I'm making a mistake by abandoning our marriage, saying that it's extremely sad that I'm allowing our relationship to end in this manner, saying that I'm taking away the home that our dog knows, and so on. I refused to let her grow close to me, and instead went through with the divorce mediation process. It went smoothly at the mediation, and she agreed to everything I requested. I received notification from the courts yesterday that I am now a free man. We were able to sell the house within 3 months of starting the mediation process, and she moved out 1 month before the closing. While we were living together while waiting for the house to sell, the gaslighting continued, with her continuing to blame me and telling me that I am terrible because I refused to speak to her at all, among a slew of other things that only a very ill person would believe given the circumstances. Eventually, we moved out. Following the sale of the house, I returned to my parents' home for a few months to reorganize my thoughts and figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. Once I started going to weekly counseling, I was able to look back on the relationship and understand how toxic and one-sided everything had been. In order to satisfy her and her exorbitant demands and expectations, I was the one who was continuously placing myself last and sacrificing my own pleasure in order to appease her. My therapist believes she suffers from borderline personality disorder, which runs in her family, which makes complete sense to her. During this process, I was also able to identify and address the underlying issues that contributed to my engagement in such a toxic relationship, and at this point, I feel I will be able to recognize warning signs in the future. As for my physical health, I recommitted to it as well, losing 15 pounds in 3 months and returning to jogging, which I am now training for a 10K. Earlier this month, I moved into my own apartment in New York City, where I am reuniting with old friends and beginning a romantic relationship for the first time in my life, albeit pretty unsuccessfully at this point. Aside from that, I obtained a promotion at work a few weeks ago for which I put in a great deal of effort. Her displaying her true colors by having an affair was the most valuable service she could have rendered to me in terms of my mental, physical, emotional, and financial well-being. Until now, I have kept the affair a secret from all of our mutual friends for fear that she would get outraged and leave mediation, but now that the divorce is final, I will notify everyone in our lives of who she is and what she did. All of this was most likely just a long-winded way of saying that things will get better eventually. The fact that we have been cheated on does not make us less than human, and you should endeavor to utilize this experience as a catapult to better yourself and become the best person you can be. This will most likely be my last big piece on this site, because although I do not feel my path to recovery has come to an end, it has just begun a new chapter, and dwelling on what this woman did to me is not worth it at this point in time. I'd want to thank you again for all of your assistance, both in terms of wonderful compliments and the unpleasant truths that I had to learn about.